online editor here at n-ost. We are a media organization connecting journalists from all over Europe with a special focus on Eastern Europe. And before I hand over to tonight's host, Frederik, our fellow member from Deutschlandfunk, I will just tell you a few words about our idea with the kitchen talk. As you may know, the original kitchen talk is formed from our annual n-ost media conferences, where the local journalists can invite their international colleagues to their kitchens for informal, professional, casual chit-chat after the long conference days. And since, unfortunately, we had to cancel this year's n-ost conference in Vienna that was planned for October, we decided to transform the kitchen talk a little bit and stream the public part of it, the discussion part of it, also here on Facebook, before we then go back in our private kitchens and maybe have another drink or two. And if you like to be with us the next time, then you please pre-register before the live stream. Then you can also join us in the Zoom meeting. And also, if you have any questions, just post them into the Facebook chat. We will start answering the questions after occasionally like approximately 30 minutes. And yeah, so we will also have an online conference thing in October, and we hope that with this experiment we will kind of find a way to how to do it then in October. And this said, thank you for your interest in our work, and I will just pass over to Frederik.
Yeah, do you hear me?
Yeah.
Great. Thank you very much, Christian, for this short introduction. As he already mentioned, my name is Frederik. I'm also a journalist. I'm working for Deutschlandfunk. It's a public broadcaster in Germany, in Cologne, actually it's based. But tonight I'm in my kitchen as well, and I'm very happy to welcome all of you to our second online kitchen talk from n-ost. It's quite a good idea, I would say. Actually, I wanted to say something about the kitchen talks, but Christian already mentioned a lot. Nevertheless, I think it's an informal format, and we can use that to talk in an open space, in a free space. Yeah, but nevertheless, the smart folks at n-ost, they managed to transform this whole thing from the media conference to the online world, and I'm quite happy that we did this and that we can meet tonight, because I think there's still a lot to discuss, actually. So if we look at the topic for tonight's kitchen talk, it's about lockdown in the times of Corona. We see authoritarian leaders in Europe and in other parts of the world who are using this crisis, who are using the Corona crisis for serious lockdowns, for emergency legislation, and for attacks on the media, especially on the independent media. And I think there arise a lot of questions. How do journalists deal with this situation? How do they work under these circumstances? And is independent journalism still possible? Is it probably more needed than ever? And I hope that we can discuss some of these questions in the next 30 minutes, 60 minutes. And I suggest we really talk about it, as I think it's a very important topic. And please feel free, as Christian already mentioned, to submit your questions via Zoom or via Facebook, and we will try to collect them and talk about those questions more or less in 30 minutes. But for now, I'm more than happy to welcome three fellow journalists from Eastern Europe. Actually, I can't see all of them, but I think they're all here. So I just introduce them to you. First, there is Alexandra from Moscow, from Russia. Ah, there she is. Hi.
Yeah, hi.
Hi. Alexandra is working for the well-known independent newspaper Novaya Gazeta, and as far as I know, she's a special correspondent and editor for the investigation department. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Then I think I saw Ervin. Is he here? Hi. He's an editor and works in Pécs for Szabad Pécs in Hungary. This is an independent, not-for-profit news site in Pécs that mostly focuses, as far as I know, on regional and local issues, but nevertheless, you manage to get into the national news as well.
Yeah, it's an interesting city.
Yeah, we're eager to hear about that from you. Hi, Ervin.
Hi.
And accompanying us from Minsk, from Belarus, is Yasia. Where are you?
Hi, nice to see
Hi. Yasia is an editor and co-owner of CityDog.by. It's a digital lifestyle magazine, very nice design, by the way. I actually really enjoyed it, browsing through it on my smartphone. And probably one of the most popular online city magazines in Belarus, with a strong focus on its community and on civic engagement. So welcome to all of you. And Yasia, maybe I can ask you something directly. I mean, more or less everyone is currently talking about the corona pandemic, politicians, scientists, citizens. Many are concerned, but you already mentioned it in the pre-round that the news coming from Belarus are somehow different. And the president, Alexander Lukashenko, he seems to be mostly ignoring the virus and its consequences, so to say. So is everyday life just as it always used to be? Can you give us an update from Minsk?
Yes, I'm from Minsk, capital of Belarus, and probably we are the last country in Europe without lockdown, official lockdown, because our president ignore every news about coronavirus. So official position of our government is that there is no death because of coronavirus. Mostly people who are dead now, usually dead from other disease and coronavirus. But for now, we are probably the country with very rapidly epidemic, because for now we have 8,000 people who were positively tested for coronavirus and 60 people dead now. But there is no any quarantine, for example. All bars still opened. We even have a football championship I already mentioned, because when you want to see something about football online, you will see only our teams playing games, because there is only one situation in the whole Europe, unfortunately. I probably need to say that we have official situation and situation of civil society and business companies and so on. Because, for example, our company, CityDog.by, it's independent media. We work remotely for more than a month already. And a lot of IT companies, a lot of independent media, independent companies work remotely, of course, because we read this news, we write this news, so we understand the situation, the whole situation. But, and of course, when you go to the street, it will be less people than ever. But a lot of official companies still works.
Mm-hmm. So that means that like everything is more or less open officially, but people respond to it and they don't behave like usually.
Yes.
Okay.
And there is very nice situation about Belarus that a lot of people start to be volunteers, start to help doctors, medical workers, start to collect money for them and so on.
Alexandra, you're based in Moscow, a little bit further east. The authorities, as far as I understood it, imposed quite a serious lockdown to fight the corona crisis. How do you live and work these days?
I am sure that I can tell about like for an hour because
just 1 or 2 minutes, please.
Yeah, okay, I'll try. So yeah, we live in like self-isolation here in Moscow, and my parents live in self-isolation, and me and my husband also are here, and it's like for maybe more than a month we living like that. And yeah, in Moscow we have the most hardest lockdown in Russia because of authorities, because of Putin and blah blah blah. So, and it's normal in this pandemic situation. I believe that it's better to stay at home but not to go outside. If we have some dramatic examples like the United States or something like that, but my work, like working as a journalist, is probably not so easy to work like a journalist in this lockdown, in this pandemic situation. So we have a lot of problems with this story.
We will just go a little bit deeper into the details quite soon. Thanks for this update. Ervin, how's the situation in Pécs in Hungary? Just give us a small glimpse and your point of view, please.
I think the people, most of the people accepted how our daily life now works, and it's getting too much. Maybe what we can see from Facebook posts, people talking on social media. It's getting too much, but I think Hungarian society is still strong. I mean, they do keep the rules. There are signs that much more violations, especially in the weekends, against the lockdown rules. But I don't see that it's a so big problem right now. Yeah.
But basically, all of you are in lockdown right now, and Yasia, you are more or less in self-lockdown.
More or less, a lot of people are self-lockdown. There are certain rules for certain professions and for certain businesses. But a lot of people and a lot of companies could organize home office, for example, much earlier than the government told them to do so. So I think Hungarian society copes with this situation quite well.
So if we go into the details, and maybe we can take a closer look into the measures taken by your respective governments in Hungary, Russia, Belarus. If we stick to you, Ervin, the Hungarian parliament just passed a law, a widely criticized law and legislation in a few weeks that gives the prime minister a lot of control, a lot of power. Yeah. I mean, the official goal is fighting Corona, but give us an insight, please. How do the measures look like, and in terms of your work, how do they restrict your work, and how does it look?
Yeah, right now we don't know yet how this will work, because there are quite a few new rules. So right now, Orban, the Prime Minister of Hungary, can rule by decree, but we do see some issues that are related to the coronavirus, but are used as a weapon against, for example, independent cities, because there were local elections in fall 2019, and in half of the 100 most populated cities, there are coalition parties ruling, and Orban uses his power right now to teach them a lesson, as we can see. Oh, sorry for my camera. Yep.
But is there also are there also restrictions concerning your daily work for Szabad Pécs? How do they look like?
Yes. Actually, there is nothing new about the situation, because this is clearly a follow-up of the 10 past years of the Orban government. So the restriction of independent media from public information is nothing new. The decree or the intensity of this has been increased. For example, information access, I mean to official information, it's much more centralized, and especially related to the coronavirus, because there is a task force, and you can ask them, only ask them questions about anything that is related to the coronavirus. You can't ask questions on a local level about. You can ask the local governments, but often they do not have that information that would you like to know, because they don't even get that information. And also there is a chilling effect. What we see in the past 2 weeks or almost 3 weeks since this new rule, because it's quite unclear what and how they will use it, because there are very interesting sentences. For example, even if you report accurate information, you can go to prison if they say that this information is against their efforts, and that does that help in the situation. So this is maybe.
It's quite an interesting example, and I think you always have to stress that we're talking about a country that's part of the European Union still. Sure. So yeah, Alexandra, what's your impression from the Russian perspective? Did Corona worsen the situation in terms of independent reporting?
Yes, of course. I have some maybe 3 or 4 statements about this fact. First of all, I can say that the main problem is impossibility of like meeting normally your experts or your sources of information for coffee or lunch, you know, and also impossibility of going to events because we have no events, and impossibility of going on business trips. So it's a huge problem because most part of my job is communication, and I'm sure that I write even less than I talk with people, and so I communicate different people, and nowadays I need to stay at home, and I can only, okay, of course I can use some messengers or video calls or telephone calls and etc. But there is two small reasons why it's not so good. I talk about like psychological reasons, because my sources of information, they are most people are afraid to transmit some information even by email. And so if you call your source by Zoom when you see each other, and he can show you, I don't know, some documents, it's unreal to be like that, because people are afraid of showing something. Okay,
you're working for defense politics, right?
Yeah. I write about the Ministry of Defense and some defense problems.
Not an easy topic.
No, it's not an easy topic. Yeah. So that's why people are afraid, and I like to go to drink coffee with my sources of information, and nowadays I can't do that, and it's the first problem. Okay, now the second one is the movement here in Moscow. I can move like a journalist. I have journalist ID and the special pass, which allow me to go anywhere, but I have no places to go except my home or like shops with food and something like that. Also like business trips, I last managed to go shortly before the closure of the borders just to Amsterdam for the first period of hearings about the MH17, which was blown up in the sky over Ukraine. And now I don't know when I can go and where I can go next time. But the main...
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, okay, it's okay.
I was just wondering, has there been any more political pressure in the shadows of, let's say, we're fighting Corona and, oh, sorry, you cannot work here?
I can say only about myself, so I hadn't such type of problems. But my last point was that the main problem in Russia at all and during the pandemic is the law, and legal risks are very huge for journalists now. I'm talking about the law on fakes or the law on fake news. We have like this law, and in Russia, fake news is unreliable information which should be presented as reliable information and entail negative consequences and treat to people's health or destabilization of life support system of society and etc. And so if I write such an information, I will have some problems with the law. And it's not a joke, because I'm not sure that it's correct to tell in English to call it like that, but we have two sorts of liability: administrative and criminal liability. So administrative liability is when, if you are guilty, you only need to pay penalty. But criminal liability is when you can get a prison sentence. So we have both of these problems. So administrative liability for fake news was introduced probably a year ago, and criminal liability appeared this year in April. And
this turns to be very handy right now, right?
Yeah. And so we have a lot of sanctions, like various penalties for physical persons or for whole newspapers or websites, blocking an article or even in news resources, restriction of freedom, and a lot of problems. And so nowadays, for me, the great problem is like with administrative liability, because I wrote one article about the Ministry of Defense, and they don't like it, of course. And so now I'm just waiting, will I have administrative liability or not? And the main problem is, when we talk about administrative liability, nobody is asking for evidence. So you can have evidence about your sources of information, but you may not be given the opportunity to prove your information. So that's Russia.
So if I get it correctly, the Russian administration, the Russian political elite, they use basically laws they introduced 1 year ago, a few months ago, concerning the fake news, for example, which means it comes in quite handy now if you want some news to not appear, you say, or you might say, this falls
after appearing this information. For example, I don't know, maybe authority of Moscow told people that they have 1,000 of cases with coronavirus in one of the departments. I don't know, but you know that there are 2,000 of people, and you write this information, and as I was said, like by 2 people in that hospital, or I don't know, like that. So I know this information, but Moscow authorities told that it's not true. So after appearing this article, somebody like government can move this information out and make you like pay some penalty or something like that. because they are sure that it's not true. So we talk about writing about the fact which can cause panic, which information in which is worse than unofficial sources, which suggest statements that government measures are ineffective, or some facts about treatments of medications which are not exactly helping. And so if you write about that, you will have problems.
If we look to Belarus, is it more or less the same, Yasia? What would you say? Or is it completely different, like the approach to fighting the corona pandemic?
We have a little bit different approach because we have such a format as a warning. If one independent media gets 2 warnings from Ministry of Information, it will be blocked without any judge. Just 2 warnings from Ministry of Information and you have no your website anymore. And probably a week ago, one independent media from the Policia region, Media Policia, get first warning from Ministry of Information because of fake news about coronavirus. And it's very difficult situation for them because the next warning, you can get this warning from any time, from any situation, and they will be blocked and it will be a great problem for them.
And do you have the, sorry.
The main, the terriblest thing from this situation is that journalist from this newspaper was dead because of coronavirus few days after this restriction, after this warning. So a lot of media was really terrified about it. And this media has also very interesting and very strict position about bullying in army. And last year they already had another warning from Ministry of Information. Okay, this rule about warnings and blocking needs 2 warnings per year. So for now, they're in better positions than a year ago, but it's our country, it's our rules. It's really difficult to work with this during our situation. Yeah, but yes, we can go to interviews, but we probably decide for our journalists to make interviews through Zoom because it's more how to say it, it's not so dangerous.
yeah, well, I think we're all safe in our kitchens and living rooms. But have the screws been tightened even more in the last weeks in the shadow of the corona pandemic?
Sorry, could you repeat, please?
Have the conditions worsened for you and your work in the last weeks?
You know, we had a lot of, we used to have a lot of publication about people on the streets. And of course, we have to be very creative in making something new in our conditions. Because, for example, we have no possibility to film something like street fashion, and we also do it every week. And for example, we have no possibility to go to shops, so we decided not to make shops article, but article about IR application when someone choose something online, not in real shops. It's not really problems, because yes, it's a problem, but we can concern something to do with that. But that part of our work is okay.
I've got one more question to all of you before we kind of open up the whole thing for questions. I think there are already some, if I see the lights and if I understand them correctly. You know, in Germany, we have this development that the public broadcasters, the public broadcasters are much more trustworthy right now, as people see there's so much fake news and stuff going on in the internet. We turn to the sources we know. Do you think this development, this phenomena, is transferable to your countries and to your media scenes, that the people would say we would rather turn to independent media because we know what we're getting there? We might to get the real facts and figures, So do you think this might be a chance for independent publications like the ones you're working for? Ervin.
Yes, I think this is a huge chance. I have to say that in Hungary there is no such thing as public media anymore. There is state media or party media or government media, if you want, but I wouldn't say that there is a public media anymore. And there is a huge mistrust in Hungarian society against not only against the government, but media related to the governing parties. And yes, everybody saw a huge increase in our statistics, and we saw also that people turn to us, especially in Pécs. So it can be a chance, but the problem is that we lack the resources. For example, we are two now, so a very tiny editorial, and we should cover a whole city with a population of 140,000. So there is a personal side of this story where we have to limit ourselves and schedule our daily life, because this has effects on us all. So yes, this is a chance, but I don't know if we will have the resources in a month, or I don't know how it will take. The first I would say 3 weeks were very intense for us, and we see now that we have to cover these issues in a less stressful way, I guess. And this is not the chilling effect that I meant, but more a personal level.
Alexandra, do you also see rising numbers, for example, page views, page impressions and stuff like this?
Yeah, we see like that audience increased. I'm sure it's doubled, I think, or more than, and it's a great chance for Novaya Gazeta and for all of journalists in our newspaper to be known, like for increased audience, not only for our audience but for bigger audience. And of course we try to use this fact to write more and more articles, and to make them more interesting and something like that. So I think, yeah, it's a great chance. And because people are sitting at home and they're reading, and it's cool, because maybe in another situation media won't be so popular like that, like now.
We also have 20% rise of our auditory in March, and probably in April it will be even more numbers.
200%.
Not 200, but 100 probably, yes. And this situation, it's also a big problem, because all these numbers is about coronavirus, but people is already tired about news about coronavirus. And this fast rise of numbers will lead fast down of numbers. And it's very interesting situation for rise your main auditory or something like that. And it's very difficult problem for all media, I think, also for us.
Yeah.
Our core audience is getting down. It's very interesting situation. And we think that in months when we start to write not only about coronavirus, it will be getting better and better, I hope.
But who knows, maybe this is the start of a positive development. Actually, if we look at the Zoom chat, there are some questions, and if you don't mind, I would just present them to all of you in your kitchens and living rooms. There's one question coming from London. Elisher is the name of the person. And yeah, it says, the UK government has included journalists in the list of important workers, of key workers, which means those journalists have a right to travel and visit various places. Do you guys in Hungary and Russia, do you have advocates, people supporting this cause for granting journalists such a status?
Yeah, in Russia we have the status like K workers, have journalists, financial specialists, medical sources, and I try to remember. There are 6 or 7 positions of K workers, and journalists are there also. Yeah.
So there is some kind of exception, actually.
What kind of exception?
I mean, that's how I understood the question, that in the UK, there are exceptions granted to journalists so that they can work more freely. But you don't have this in Russia, right?
I don't know. It's like 2 parts of this problem. So you can work freely more than, I don't know, teachers, because you can go anywhere you want, but you have no places to go. So you can go to visit, I don't know, shop or your home and your office, like where your newspaper is based, and that's all, because you have no events, you have no meetings and something like that. So it's like 2 parts of one problem. On the one hand, you have more freedom, but on the other hand, you have governments, authorities, laws, and blah blah blah.
How's it for you, Ervin? Do you have this kind of special status?
No, but I can work freely, so I can go where I want, because I can tell the police that I'm working as a journalist, so it wouldn't be a problem. But like previously said, there are other things that that are problematic right now. Yeah, this is not a problem. I can't imagine that something like also in Germany, I guess that independent journalism belongs to key infrastructure. Am I right?
Partly.
Yeah, I can't imagine something like that in Hungary, or if yes, then there would be some favorable media who would be called key infrastructure. Actually, there is a case for that. There is a huge conglomerate owned by a private foundation that is called Central European Press and Media Organization, and that has 500 media outlets right now, or more than 500 outlets, and it's clearly related to the governing party, and it would be just a signature to make them key infrastructure.
There is a question from Niklas. He wants to know from all of you, what are you currently working on? And he even wants to know, for example, what you did yesterday in terms of your journalistic work, or today, and if you feel any economic pressure on your media. Who wants to answer? Yeah, if you want.
I just finished my podcast today. We have a weekly podcast that comes out on each Friday, and of course it's about the coronavirus and how it affects local businesses and how the local government tries to deal with it. So yeah, that's what I was working on today. And how it affects us. Yes, there we had some advertisers that already told us that this year they won't have any advertising on their site because they were in the in tourism and in hospitality industry. So it's no point for them to have advertisements on our site right now or until this lockdown is still on.
Our main communication was turned online, and this day was started with online editing team meeting. We start to speak about this main articles and news about these days. After that, we have a meeting with our native advertisement team, and we were speaking about main projects we are now working on. We understand that for now we have no problems with native advertisement, but we understand that it's only for months or two, because in 2 months we expect the economical lockdown, because all this crisis connected with economical crisis. Because okay, we have no restriction for bars, but some of these bars are already closed because of the economical situation, and a lot of people who give their money to make advertisement on our website will be closed or will just close their marketing programs and so on. And after that, me and my colleagues was writing something like policy paper about problems with independent media for donors, which could be so like we understand which consequences we will have in 2 or 3 months, and we are just writing which help probably we need to have in 3 months or something like that.
What about you, Alexandra? What are you working on? I mean, you mentioned some article already.
I think my working days also doubled in because of coronavirus. I don't know why, but I start to work at the morning, early at the morning, and I'm finishing like at the end of the day. In normal life, I have some weekend or something like that. In pandemic, I don't have weekend, and all of my colleagues, they are working every single day, so I don't know what to tell about usual day working day here at home, because I'm on my phone and on my MacBook. I'm writing articles, and also I need like I'm writing like a special correspondent, and also I need to control some articles of my journalists. I don't have them all. I have only 2 workers nowadays, and also I'm trying to find something new, some people who can also write for our newspaper, some big investigations or something like that, and not about coronavirus, like about anything,
all the other things.
Another subjects. So I need to check information in their articles, and also I need to communicate with editor-in-chief, with a lot of my speakers and a lot of people. So I'm just I need to increase the battery on my phone, because it doesn't want to work good at all. So
actually,
that's all.
sounds very interesting. I was just wondering how big and how many people are working for Novaya Gazeta. Ervin just said that it's basically him and another guy, but your publication seems to be a bit bigger.
How many people? So we have maybe more than 150 people in Novaya Gazeta. I speak about not only journalists but a lot of staff who is working together with us. And what about journalists? So near about 100 people, I think. So and what was the second question? I forgot.
No, that was just I was just trying to emphasize actually how big Novaya Gazeta is in terms, if you combine it with the site from Ervin. And I find it quite interesting that you are a more independent newspaper, which, as you just told us, which kind of has to struggle to cover topics really because it's Russia. And I find it quite interesting to see how big actually the whole operation is, which says that it's not just not a small newspaper, but
no, it's not small newspaper if we combine it with my colleagues here, but maybe it's smaller than, I don't know, Kommersant. Maybe I worked
like
there for
papers,
yeah. I worked there for several years, and so it's bigger than Novaya Gazeta. Okay, it's true. Yeah, okay. but yeah. So that's all.
Yasia, there's a question for you coming from Andreas. Actually, he might be in the chat. He's from n-ost as well. He's asking, how do you balance the situation between informing the people of the dangers of the coronavirus, but while you're doing that, you might bring your own publication, which is CityDog.by. You might bring your own publication into serious problems because you might spread fake news or, in fact, not accurate news about the virus. How do you cope with this not so easy situation?
But it's a typical situation for journalists in authoritarian countries. You do best, doing your best, and every time you are in risk. So you need to be kind in your data. You need to twice check everything and do everything you need to do. And of course, you have risk to be blocked, but that's our how to say it? It's our life.
Reality. Do you have money and legal power, for example, lawyers that support your cause?
Yes,
and
course.
do you win sometimes?
We have lawyers who help us. We have no cases when we need to go to courts. But we know that our lawyer is the best lawyer, but our courts are not as good courts as you imagine that. It's like authoritarian countries is about not really good courts. We have this good situation when court is independent from the government. So it's a situation when you have you could have problems if someone want to have problems to you. So we just work in this situation. Like, I think that people in Israel live with this situation, yeah? So it's like from time to time, the bomb could be near you. That's our consequences.
Andreas also wants to know if you know how other independent media outlets...
it's the situation for all of us. It's the same, yes, because and probably the situation in Belarus is about, there is no really censorship, but it could be self-censorship, and it's the biggest force you have to fight for, just to be truly and to be kind in every situation, and not to be self-censorship in your everyday life. You could have problems, but it's okay. It's your situation. And it's about every independent media in our country.
There's another question for Ervin, written by Hannah. She says, hello, everybody. I've read that in Hungary, for example, the penalty for spreading fake news concerning Corona can be up to 5 years imprisonment. And Hannah wants to know if these penalties are realistic in the first place. And she also wants to know, Ervin, do you think that they might be carried out by judges, for example?
I don't know. This is the biggest problem. So it's clear that there is a new regulation, but it's not only about fake news, but more like scaremongering, I guess. So the news has to be able to carry out panic in the masses, and this is something very interesting. We know that there are already investigations in progress, but I only know about 2 against media. Most of these investigations are against just normal everyday people who wrote some stupid shit on Facebook. This like there is no coronavirus and you can go out freely, and these are real investigations now. But I also know that there are a couple of investigations going on against media.
Have people been going to jail, actually? Do you
No,
know about
no. There has to be a long process. I think they are going to get fines, but actually going to court is it will take much longer time. So we don't really see the outcome of this new legislation yet. And the biggest problem is the regulation, the rule by decree that has made Prime Minister Orban the almighty leader of Hungary, that we don't know how long it will go on. So this is the biggest problem, I guess.
Alexandra, you also talked about fake news and the laws behind it. What about the penalties in Russia? What's your impression? How heavy are they? And did people already, or journalists even go to jail?
Yeah, so they're heavy, but it depends on situation. So today, before our kitchen talk, I had like kitchen talk with a lawyer from the Center for Journalists, and she told me a lot about this law on fake news, and she told that the law on fake news, every country, even in Europe, you have also such laws, but they are more like democratic than in Russia. So as all things are, and in Russia we have different penalties from 30,000 rubles. It's like maybe $1,000 for a person. Maybe you wrote something on Facebook, or you chatted with your friends on WhatsApp or something like that, and you wrote something fake. And if you know before writing, if you knew that it was fake and wrote it, you will get a penalty like from 30,000 rubles till maybe 100,000, something like that. And also authorities can take your phone or like take your smartphone or your computer, but we have no cases like that till today. I have never heard about that. But like if we spoke about the law, they can take it, but they don't want to. I don't know why. So and for journalists also we have some penalties, and you can get a prison sentence. The hardest penalty is 5 billion rubles. I'm trying to. I'm not good at maths, and I'm trying to.
I can try, but it's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot, and also a prison sentence for 3 years maybe, or 2 years, something like that. But it should be really strange situation, really hard situation, that after your article somebody died or something like that. So it's not a usual situation for Russia, you know. So I'm just speaking about different cases, but it's not like every day in our life we got billion penalties. No, it's not like that.
If I got it correctly, it's at least several million euros.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably 6 or even more. Yasia, the question also.
As I already mentioned, the main problem is about blocking of your media most than imprisonment of person. But we have no law about fake news. We have special law about slander, and for example, slander for president. And in this case, you can have something like 3 years of imprisonment. But we have no cases of this. So, I feel that we are not the last dictatorship in Europe right now. Like, our situation is not the cruelest here.
Well, this is actually, it's a good starting point for the next question, which goes out to Ervin. Ervin, someone, I don't know, no name is written down here. Were you satisfied with the reaction of the European Union and Germany regarding the new legislation in Hungary?
I no, but I'm not that idealistic about that. So I don't think that this is something that, the European Union and the EPP should put pressure on Fidesz and on the Hungarian government, not only in this case. So, but. It would be very idealistic to think that they could change the attitude of Orban instantly. Actually, this is what Orban always does. He goes until there is a wall, until he can do what he wants. And if there is a wall, then he can change his direction instantly, and we always went that way. So yes, that would be nice if there was much more pressure on the Hungarian government, but this is only one situation. There are a lot of other issues there where the EU should put more pressure on the Hungarian government.
Actually, there's one more question from Anna, and it's, well, kind of a specialist question which goes to Alexandra. Anna writes, the editor-in-chief of the Novaya Gazeta said that the paper is looking with its law experts into the case of its journalist Elena Milashina, who obviously... Milashina, thank you. Who received death threats from Ramzan Kadyrov, the Chechen leader, after she was reporting on the coronavirus in the Chechen Republic. And Anna wants to know if you have any update on this and if your newspaper will find a complaint regarding the threats.
No, I have no update. I'm sorry, really, and I'm sure that we will make something with the situation. But I must say, for another people who don't know anything about this situation, that Novaya Gazeta every day has some problems with Ramzan Kadyrov, and it's normal situation for us. For Yelena Milashina, she is special correspondent. She's brilliant special correspondent, and she's writing a lot about this region, about policy in this region, and also she has some problems because this region is really difficult. So it's difficult situation, but on really this certain question, I cannot tell something new, because this situation is not finished, and so we are like making something with this.
So yeah, there's one more last comment saying thank you for the insights and for the power to Elena and Alexandra from Novaya Gazeta during these times. Everyone stay strong and stay healthy. So yeah, this goes out to all of you, Alexandra, Ervin, and Yasia, listeners, guests, and viewers, so to say. I'm really happy that we could talk about independent journalism in these difficult times in your countries. And actually it was a pleasure meeting all of you in your kitchens and living rooms. And I just say thank you and goodbye, as it's 8 o'clock and our stream now ends. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Frederik, also for moderating this official part of the Kitchen Talk, and thanks for watching on Facebook. Just give us a like or follow us on social media, on your newsletter, if you don't want to miss out the next Kitchen Talk. And we will now proceed with the informal part, and wish you a nice rest of the evening in all of the kitchens outside there, all over Europe. Goodbye, Paka. Bye-bye. Sziasztok.